What's going on, everybody? Josh Callaway here with AllSooners, and alongside by John Hoover, Ryan Chapman at the stadium in Norman, where it's National Signing Day. Brent Venables held his press conference today along with Jeff Lebby and Ted Roof to talk about finally the guys. They aren't just commits. You know they're coming now. Ink to paper. Oklahoma signed 24 players today. Brent Venables finally able to talk about them all, and he did that today. We'll start with the big one. QB1, the guy everybody's really excited about, Jackson Arnold, officially a Sooner. Brent Venables able to talk about him a little bit today. Glowing things, a foundational player is what he called him. This is a guy who can, not that Oklahoma's in a horrible spot, but he can change your program. It's a big get.
He's foundational.
He is.
That's all you need to say about a quarterback. Sometimes you get a quarterback and you're like, he might play one of these days. No, this is a guy that has the ability to come in and play. If not right away, then certainly be a backup right away and fill in for Dillon Gabriel if needed, and then replace Dillon Gabriel next year. You talk to Jeff Lebby. He can spin it. He loves the way he can spin it. He walks in a room and commands presence. He leads his teammates. He is the guy. He is the centerpiece of this recruiting class. 5-star across the board. Everybody loves this kid. Frankly, I can't wait to see what he can do in college.
Yeah, he's a guy, too, that Jeff Lebby didn't shy away from saying he will be the face of Oklahoma at one point. And so that's high praise from Jeff Lebby, and a guy that, going all the way back to the Elite 11 regionals in Dallas, Josh and I were on hand. That's what Jackson Arnold had basically said, that relationship with Jeff Lebby, they are in sync, they are one, and you just knew wherever Jeff Lebby was going to be, Jackson Arnold ended up there. And that's going to be Oklahoma. So, like we've kind of joked about, with everything said about Jackson Arnold, definitely feels like if Dillon Gabriel goes down with a chin strap, they have to fix it for a drive, something like that. This staff probably going to trust him to throw the ball forward a couple of times and not just stand out there at wide receiver, because he's got all that talent in the world. And basically at Denton Geyer, if you've been watching his highlights, they're at allsooners.com. That offense should look very, very familiar to Oklahoma fans. It's basically just the exact same Jeff Lebby offense that Geyer's running. So it shouldn't be a huge learning curve for Arnold. The tempo will be something, terminology, all the stuff that always changes. But he's a guy that what he did this past couple of years should be what he's going to spin forward and do at Oklahoma, which is why I think there's so much faith that he's going to come in and be that dude for the Sooners from this coaching staff.
Yeah, Arnold's the real deal. It doesn't take long to watch him to realize that, and he's going to be, like Ryan said, Jeff Lebby referenced, probably the face of Oklahoma before too long. He leads a very talented group of offensive players, obviously running backs Caleb Hicks, Dalen Smothers, receivers Jacquez Petaway, Keon Brown, a bunch of offensive linemen. But this class, in very Brent Venables fashion, skews defense. More defensive players, lots of guys to be excited about. 14 of the 24 commits, correct, are defensive players, all three levels. There's a lot of reasons for Oklahoma fans to be excited about what everybody's been groaning about for a decade, it feels like, getting this defense turned around.
Yeah, 6 DBs, 5 D linemen, 3 linebackers, athletic. They're talking about guys' arms and legs all over the place, athletic, long, limbs, I think he said, all over the place. So the athletic and fast, explosive, disruptive at the line of scrimmage. They're talking about guys getting their hands up and batting down passes. I mean, you're projecting a little bit, but when you've got a 5-star like P.J. Adebawore coming in, this guy, I don't know if you've seen his tape. Started out as a 3-star, little-known guy. Nobody really gave him much time of day. Then all of a sudden Oklahoma offered. He commits to Oklahoma, and his rating shoots through the roof. He becomes almost a consensus 5-star. Fantastic player. He's the centerpiece of the defense. But, it's just all over the board, athletes everywhere. And I think if you look at in just the general sense, what Brent Venables and his staff did, I think they recruited 5 guys from the state of Florida, 5 out of the Sunshine State. Guess where they're playing their bowl game? Yeah, Florida. So I think those things tie in. I talked to a couple of recruits this week from Florida, and they're like, heck yeah, I'm going to the game. It's in my home state.
Yeah, and you look at it, it's just a huge difference from what we've been used to keeping up with the last couple of years. The Alex Grinch defense was very simple, and what they recruited to was cookie cutter. When they send those offers out, the three of us could sit down and easily be like, that guy's a safety, this guy's a linebacker, this guy's the rush linebacker. When you look at this group and what Brent Venables and this staff has done, he mentioned, as far as the defensive line goes, P.J. Adebawore, Taylor Wine, those 2 guys probably going to stay on the outside. Brent Venables talked about maybe third down, rush package, those guys could play in the interior. But everybody else, the rest of the defensive linemen, linebackers, everyone in the secondary, a common theme was versatility. These guys can play all over the place, and what you've seen, which is going to allow this staff to come in, and Brent Venables and Ted Roof talked about getting those guys on campus, seeing what they retain, And that gives you the ability to move those guys around and get your best 11 on the field or get that rotation going. So it'll be fascinating to see now that this is year one, the first class start to finish at Brent Venables as the head coach. If that means that Oklahoma can find some answers, maybe not early on is putting a ton of pressure on the freshmen, but being able to say, okay, this guy doesn't work out here. Well, guess what? Slide him over to safety and see if that's a fit. And suddenly you're able to have these guys contribute instead of seeing a bunch of guys wash out like we saw with so many scout team portal entries on the defense over the last month or so.
A lot of guys to be excited about, that's for sure, for Oklahoma, and we'll get to see some of these guys, all of them, in the spring camp here coming up. Let's see what they look like in practice, maybe a little bit in the spring game, obviously, as well. But while it's a good day, lots of reasons to be excited for Oklahoma, the big news of the day is on the negative side. Peyton Bowen, who we've talked about at length, 5-star defensive back, teammate of Jackson Arnold, really close friends. Obviously, his girlfriend goes to Oklahoma. There was all these reasons I think maybe Oklahoma could flip him from Notre Dame. Been talking about it for what feels like quite literally a calendar year. He did flip today, but to Oregon. Sooners miss out a gut punch for Oklahoma here. This was a player who is elite at his position that they thought they had a good shot to get, and you miss out.
Yeah, I don't know about gut punch. I think that's probably a little strong. I think it's disappointing for the coaching staff. A lot of people that are in the know were talking about Peyton Bowen all week, the past few weeks, as a certainty. And a lot of people who were in the know about Peyton Bowen were saying, I don't know. I was one of the ones that didn't really ever buy in that he was coming. I mean, not to Oklahoma anyway, but the last-second flip to Oregon where Oklahoma wasn't even on the table when he laid his hats out and he takes the Notre Dame hat on, puts it on, and then he takes it off and puts the Oregon hat on. I mean, he's playing games a little bit, and so I asked Brent Venables the question because the news broke during the press conference while we were talking to Venables. I said, so in the age of the transfer portal, you put a lot of resources into a guy. Do you ever close that door? Or in the age of the transfer portal now, do you have to keep that door open? You can't burn that bridge. And he said, yeah, no, I wouldn't call it a burned bridge. But the reference, of course, was Peyton Bowen. He can't talk about him. But there's a bridge there that you have to keep open if you're Brent Venables because his name is Eli Bowen. He's a great safety. He's a younger brother. You can't just shut that family off and say, we're mad that you didn't include us in your top 3 or top 2 or whatever it was, and you shunned us on signing day. You can't do that. You have to keep the channel open because he's got a little brother, but you also have to keep it open, realizing that someday he may want to flip back to Oklahoma because of the transfer portal.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a guy that just one of those things where Oklahoma continued to pour resources in. They had an in-home visit that lasted hours over this past weekend, and it sounds like at about 10 a.m. this morning, about when we all kind of got the information on Twitter that it was not going to be a scenario where Peyton Bowen, the school he signs with, just announces that he was going to do his own little ceremony, Instagram Live, whatever. About that time, about 10 a.m. is about when the OU coaching staff stopped hearing from Peyton Bowen. So in the war room, they were able to kind of understand where that goes, and that's part of recruiting, right? I think all the coaches kind of understand what that looks like. But yeah, on signing day, that would have just been the cherry on top to what is a very, very nice defensive class, especially for Oklahoma, as they have a lot to rebuild. This is a roster that Brent Venables didn't get to have much to do with, and as we talked about all year, they did a great job keeping last year's class together, but it's really tough to put your fingerprints on that. And just the fact that you got a guy like Armason Thomas late who came in and contributed, that's about all you can ask for in that little transition period. This is not that. This is year one for this entire recruiting class. And so not getting Bowen stinks, but that's why they went out and got 6 other defensive backs and have that kind of versatility and grabbed a late safety grab and Dan McCullough that obviously is going to have a brother that come in through the portal and contribute at Cheetah as well.
Just can't help but feel like the book is not closed yet on Peyton Bowen.
No, that's true on Bowen. But something Venables made a point of today talking about was there's more to come. He said there are more to come. They're at 24 right now. They may finish at 25, but you can expect a bunch of preferred walk-ons coming in the next couple of weeks at minimum. And then who knows how they'll do between now and February.
Yeah, with the transfer portal as well, obviously still some guys getting out there. They've only added a handful in the portal, so expect them to look to continue to add there. And like I said, with Peyton Bowen, his close relationship with Jackson Arnold feels like we may be doing this run around again at some point in the future. So that's it for signing day for now. Please check out AllSooners.com. There is so much there for you. Every single guy is covered. Ryan grinding with the capsules, talking about every single guy. There's highlight tapes of every single guy as well. Got all those in, so you can learn about every single player that Oklahoma signed today, and lots more from what Brent Venables said, Lebby, Roof, all of it is there for you on AllSooners.com. We're headed to Orlando next week for the Cheez-It Bowl, so keep up with AllSooners. We'll be heading to the Sunshine State for Oklahoma and Florida State next week. We'll have tons of coverage from boots on the ground in Orlando. We'll see you then. That's it for signing day. For John Hoover and Ryan Chapman, I'm Josh Callaway.